Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, Friday. Happy Friday. It's the end of the week, June 6th, 2025. On today's video discussion, we are talking about multiple storms that are forming in the Eastern Pacific. On the Atlantic, on the other hand, things are going to be nice and quiet, at least for the foreseeable future. All of the activity for now is in the Eastern Pacific. So that's what we're going to spend most of today's video talking about. On the National Tropical Weather Outlook, the latest outlook as of 11 a.m. Pacific time, so that would be 2 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. The latest National Hurricane Center outlook has two areas of high chance of development. Both of these areas are also invested, so they both have an invest number attached to them. This area to the west here, this is Invest 91E, and then this area closer to Mexico, just south of the Mexican coastline, this area is 92E. And over the next 7 days, it looks like both of these have a pretty good shot at developing and becoming not hurricanes. 92E, this one here closer to Mexico, might actually have a decent chance at doing that, but both of these storms might form over the next several days and become our next two named systems in the Eastern Pacific, all while, once again, the Atlantic is nice and quiet. So we're really not going to talk about the Atlantic much. Here's the latest satellite loop of things in the Eastern Pacific, and you could see both areas on their way to developing, although they are both not organized yet. They're generally part of this overall bigger mess associated with the ITCZ through here, the Intertropical Convergence Zone, and they're both going to break off from the Intertropical Convergence Zone and form their own separate low-level pressures, and then kind of move west-northwestward, maybe do a little bit of a Fujiwara effect. I'll show you in the models in a little bit. In general, this setup is very messy, and it's going to lead to a little bit of wonky things, but wonky things happen in the tropics all the time. But bottom line, it looks like we are on our way to getting our next two named storms in the Eastern Pacific. And really quickly, with the 850 millibar vorticity, you could see they both have decent vorticity signatures. So they definitely have the energy. They definitely have the vorticity. It's definitely bundling. So they have that going for them. It's just a matter of when they can fully close off their low-level centers and become officially meet the classifications for being a tropical cyclone, and then eventually, becoming a tropical storm and getting the name and that sort of stuff. That'll probably happen within the next few days. So speaking of the next few days, let's take a look at what the track guidance for these areas of interest are. This is starting off with Invest 91E, which is, once again, this lobe of vorticity to the left here, kind of trying to get a sense of my direction. But this lobe of vorticity on the left, that's Invest 91E. And it's going to do a little bit of an interesting thing here. In general, it's going to move off to the west-northwest, but it then kind of takes a northerly turn because Invest 92E, on the other hand, that's going to develop and take a little bit more of a standard west-northwesterly track. And once again, going back to the 850 millibar vorticity here, because both of these areas are developing so close to each other, a little bit of wonky things are going to happen. It looks like this area of vorticity here, this area further right, which is Invest 92E, which is this track here that's going to be closer to the Mexican coastline, although the positive thing I will say about both 91 and 92E is that they will both stay away from the Mexican coastline. So interests on Mexico, the most you should be looking at with either of these areas of potential tropical development is going to be, at most, maybe some rip currents, maybe some occasional showers and thunderstorms for maybe some outer bands, but no direct landfall threat we're looking at to the Mexican coastline. So at least we have that. But we're going to have a little bit of an interesting situation because they're both going to be developing very close to each other. And because of that, they might try to start interacting with one another. And I'll show you here on the models in just a moment, but 92E looks like it'll probably be the stronger of the two storms. And because of that, um, there's going to be a little bit of a Fujiwara effect situation that might actually try to occur. And that's why I kind of have, at least with 90E, this weirder track where it kind of goes west-northwest, and then you could clearly see when it interacts with 92E, because it's the weaker one, it then gets kind of chucked to the north, and then probably right around here ends up on the northern side, or ends up becoming more or less absorbed within whatever energy 91E ends up having. But it looks like both of these areas are going to develop, although once again 91E expected to be the weaker one, and that is very clear in the model intensity guidance. Most of the model guidance at best bringing this to weak tropical storm intensity. One of them here even not even bringing this to tropical storm intensity. I guess this model is probably not expecting any development at all out of 91E, but 92E, on the other hand, and I am actually looking at this pretty much for the first time. The models are actually pretty solid on 92E. In fact, they're indicating that this might even become the first hurricane potentially of the season. And let's actually head on to the actual model guidance right now from the GFS, and then I'll show you the Euro in just a moment. And the GFS is actually pretty aggressive on especially this area to the right here. This is 92E. In fact, they don't even show 91E at all, pretty much developing. And that's kind of part of the tricky situation here, because they'll both develop very close to each other, so their energies are going to interact with each other. And then obviously, since 91E here, or 92E, is clearly the stronger storm, it's definitely going to have a lot more of a negative influence on 91E. So much so, it seems like, at least on the GFS, it doesn't develop at all, and in fact just absorbs all of the energy from 91E. And 91E is probably just nothing more than maybe a depression at most. In fact, probably not even a storm here on the GFS. And then eventually, over the next several days, as the system heads on to the west-northwest, once again staying away from the Mexican coastline, and then eventually it gets far west-northwest enough, it probably starts running into cooler waters, and then dies out and does not become much of a concern beyond that. And then we're probably going to have to watch to see beyond that if anything else does develop in the Eastern Pacific, because as obvious, you could see the pattern once again churning over Central America, things remaining favorable. We might get more development in the Eastern Pacific, and obviously we'll have to see, does something try to sneak up and develop in the Atlantic realm of responsibility. And really quickly, let's take a look at the Euro and see what they have in contrast to the GFS. And the Euro actually develops both of these systems. So I guess the Euro would be a situation where we end up having two extra name storms, obviously on both of the models, though. Once again, they stay out to sea, luckily, and then as you can see kind of towards the end here, the energies from both 91 and 92E kind of begin to interact, and then kind of loop around with each other, but I guess they're both feeding off of each other's energy at the same time, that they kind of get absorbed into each other. Plus, this is probably far west-northwest enough that water temperatures are cooler here, and both of the systems are probably degrading and slowly disintegrating while this is happening. But the Euro actually shows both of them develop. So we'll see what ends up happening here. It's definitely a very tricky situation, but in the meanwhile, looks like we're going to have our next two named storms very much more than likely in the Eastern Pacific, while meanwhile, I'm not even going to show you the GFS on the Atlantic, because at least over the next week, it's completely dead, for one, and for two, anything beyond that is really irrelevant, at least for right now. The Atlantic is going to stay quiet, and once again, all of the activity is focused in the Pacific. And just to really quickly remind you of what the next two names on the list are, we obviously had Alvin not long ago, so we could cross Alvin off the list. The next two names on the list, if both of these areas of interest do develop, will be Barbara and Cozumel. So that is what's coming up here in the Eastern Pacific. But beyond that, again, not much else to talk about. The Atlantic will stay nice and quiet for at least the foreseeable future, which is obviously always a good thing. While we have our things to develop here in the Eastern Pacific, and they'll probably develop by the time we get to this weekend. Probably by this weekend, we'll be talking about at least Barbara on the map, maybe even Cozumel by early next week if things go the way some of the models expect them to. We'll see, though. And of course, once again, just to reiterate, looks like there is no major threat to Mexico at this time. But of course, it is hurricane season, so never let your guard down. Always remember, luck favors the prepared. With that being said, I'm going to end it off for this evening's video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe. Turn on the notification bell if you subscribe so you can get whenever I upload these videos, the moment I upload them, and also subscribe to help our channel grow and help our community grow so we can achieve new heights. And I can help you get the news out much more efficiently, and also help you with getting the news out in a much better way as well. But that we can only achieve if you subscribe and also share with family and friends, and especially to those that you think might find any of this information useful. And hopefully, if you're watching, this information was useful to you too. Have a great rest of your evening. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. I will see you back here tomorrow.